Comfort and Joy is a 1984 released comedy drama directed by Bill Forsyth.
It stars Bill Patterson as Alan Dicky Bird, who's a radio DJ in Glasgow, a bit of a sort of local celebrity. He does the morning show from 6 a.m. It's set just before Christmas. The film opens and he's with his girlfriend shopping. Well, I say shopping, she's stealing stuff. She's a bit of a kleptomaniac. We follow them home and they have dinner, and then she suddenly announces that she's leaving him for no apparent reason. So he's obviously a little bit distraught by this, and he can't convince her to stay. She takes pretty much everything out of the house. He has the mortgage and she has all the stuff, which she's acquired, shall we say. While he's sort of trying to clear his head and take his mind off this, he's driving around in his shiny red BMW. He spots an ice cream van and there's a rather attractive girl in the back who's played by Claire Grogan. On a whim, he decides to follow this ice cream van as he likes the look of her and obviously would like to have a little chat, get to know her better. So he follows them to a housing estate where they stop to sell ice creams. He goes over and buys one. Doesn't really get to talk to her very much, unfortunately, much to his disappointment. But as he's walking back to his car, another car pulls up. 3 guys in balaclavas jump out and start smashing the crap out of this ice cream van, smashing windows and all sorts. And the guy inside, called Trevor, and Claire Grogan jump out and start spraying them with raspberry sauce, because that's all they've got to defend themselves with. Then these guys run off, not before one of them asks Dickie for his autograph, because he recognises him. And what's happened is he's basically stumbled across this turf war between 2 rival ice cream sellers. One called Mr. Bunny, which is the one that he's just followed, and another outfit called McCall's. Because they recognise him, the owner of this McCall's franchise wants to speak to him and to try and get him to sort of, I don't know, resolve this conflict in some way. It's an Italian family that owns it. It's kind of presented as like a sort of mafia kind of outfit. And that's sort of where the film goes from there. The pursuit of this girl is sort of forgotten about, and it's all about this ice cream turf war. Bearing in mind that it's Christmas, I don't know who exactly buys ice cream from an ice cream van at Christmas. I can't say I've ever seen one driving around after about September. But apparently in Glasgow, maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's always cold there, so it doesn't make any difference.
Peculiar film, actually.
Yes.
We chose it because as we did last week, 2 reasons. So we're doing Amazon Prime films at the moment because one of us is, in tier 3, so kind of still in lockdown. And it's Christmas, so it is a little bit more Christmassy than last week's film.
Yeah.
Things to come. This one is kind of Christmas is in it. There are pointers to Christmas in the film. Then it kind of moves away from that and becomes about ice cream vans and gang fighting and things like that.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before, but I knew of it because I have seen other films by Bill Forsyth. He's mostly famous for his films Gregory's Girl and Local Hero, and also That Sinking Feeling, which was his first film. I really liked Local Hero. And That Sinking Feeling is a really good film as well. And he also made this film called Housekeeping, which he made in America. I think that was his first film in America, which I really liked too, although that one's quite strange too. I think what's interesting about him, and this film was quite odd, it's quite slow at times. It's very melancholic, but it's kind of full of quite absurd situations. And I think that's what his films are kind of doing. And that's what this one's doing. But it didn't quite work.
No, I agree. It didn't work for me, no. I mean, I've only seen Gregory's Girl, and that was a long time ago. I got a feeling we had to watch it for school or something. I mean, is it based on a book?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Anyway, I remember seeing it a long time ago. But no, this one, I enjoyed it for sort of half an hour. I got quite into it. Bill Patterson's a likeable presence. He's fun to watch. The whole thing with his girlfriend, first of all, being a kleptomaniac, and then just leaving him out of the blue. I would rather have had a film about that, about her kleptomania, about, the why she just left with no reason. That was more interesting. Once she'd gone, okay, he was miserable and didn't know what to do with himself. Okay, that's fine. But then this whole tangent with the ice cream stuff, I mean, obviously that is the main point of the film, but it just didn't, I don't know, it was very, I don't know, I didn't see the point of any of it. It was all a bit ridiculous. And like you say, it is a bit absurd. And, obviously intentionally so. But I didn't feel it really bought into... What did it want to be? It didn't really seem to know. And maybe, again, that's intentional. I don't know. But it was obviously a completely ridiculous situation. But the film didn't present it in a ridiculous enough way where it was... I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
I actually agree with you on that too.
Yeah.
I mean... I think, again, I mean, we tend to do films on the channel that one of us either knows and likes. We tend not to do films that, well, we know we have done films where neither of us have seen them, because we're not really a review channel as such. You know, we tend to pick films that we would like you guys to go out and watch if you haven't seen it. So we kind of recommend films to other people. And obviously, I was kind of going on Amazon and Prime, and we were looking for films that had Christmas in it. And if you type in Christmas to Amazon Prime, most of the films that come up are pretty ghastly.
Yeah, schmaltzy dirge, basically, is what I would
Christmas
describe.
dirge, exactly, yeah. This one was in there, it's Scottish, and it's by a filmmaker that I know and have seen films of his. I've seen stuff by him before and have enjoyed things by him. So we kind of came to it new. So in a way, I'm quite interested to know, do people out there, if they do know this film, do you like it, and why do you like it? Because I totally agree with you. I think if you know his work does go to quite absurd. He's a very kind of observational filmmaker. You know, he observes everyday life and the situations that go on in everyday life, and within that, he kind of sees quite absurd situations. He's a little bit actually like, I mean, there's a kind of a humour in Scotland, I think, that's different. I mean, I think, you know, obviously every country and every nation has their own type of humour, and I think the humour in Britain changes. English humour is very different to Welsh humour, is very different to Irish humour, and is very different to Scottish humour. I think they've all got, you know, and even in England, we're kind of separated between South and North. I think Scotland has a quite a surreal or maybe an absurd observational humour. I mean, if you think of someone like Billy Connolly, he's very good at kind of observational humour. He's like the master of it, really. And I think Bill Forsyth's films have that, but I think in this one, it didn't seem to go anywhere. I think you're right. I think the whole story, the whole thing, the setup with his kleptomaniac girlfriend, I would have enjoyed going further with that, because I think it was almost like that was setting up the film to do something, and then she goes, and you never see her again, apart from a couple of dream sequences.
He keeps dreaming about her. Yeah,
but that doesn't go anywhere. And the whole thing with the ice cream truck, it's kind of odd because it's Christmas. You know, and like you say, I don't know, do they? Maybe they do have ice creams in Christmas in Scotland. Obviously, this is the 80s, so it's, you know, it's now 35 years ago.
I mean, I thought, you know, well, Claire Grogan didn't have a lot to do in it.
No.
And I thought it was going to be, you know, they were going to hook up and she was going to take him on crazy adventures or something, you know, to do with ice cream. But she's barely in it.
Yeah.
Barely has any lines.
Yeah.
So it didn't, I mean, not that, you know, I'm not disappointed because it didn't go in the direction I was expecting, but that would have been more interesting than what we got, I feel. I've read stuff that suggests it's supposed to be a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, where he follows, obviously it's the van says Mr. Bunny, so it's a rabbit, and he follows it part of the journey when he's following it is through a tunnel, so, you know, down under the tree, I think they go, don't they, in Alice in Wonderland. And then bizarre things start to happen. I don't know, I think that's where the parallels end, to be honest. But this ice cream stuff doesn't even come up until halfway through the film, by which point we've had like 20 minutes of him just moping around.
Yeah. I watched an interesting interview with Bill Forsyth and Bill Patterson. They came back together again. And Bill Patterson himself was saying how he kind of got the sense that the film was quite autobiographical for Bill Forsyth. At that point in his career, he'd had quite a bit of success with Gregory's Girl and Local Hero, and the film is essentially about someone who's got this big success. He's a radio DJ. Everywhere he goes, people recognise him, which straight away that's quite amusing, because, like you say, when they attack the ice cream van and then they kind of go after him and then they recognise him and he asks for his autograph, that's quite an amusing scene. But then around him, his life is falling apart, and he was suggesting that maybe that was similar to Bill Forsyth himself, in that he'd got this success, but maybe his personal life wasn't going the way he perhaps had wanted it to. So you can see that maybe it is a little bit autobiographical in that way, but then, I just don't think it completely worked. I mean, I think there's certainly stuff in there that made me smile, and there were certainly moments in there that made me laugh, but some of the humour I don't think it hit. Wasn't as funny as it could have been, and I think had it been funnier, it would have been better.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would have gone with the whole ice cream thing if it had just really sort of invested in that and just gone completely nuts with it. Again, like I said, that kind of set up like they're, you know, two rival mafia families or something. But again, it doesn't really go absurd enough into that. I mean, there's one bit where the gang turns up and attacks the warehouse of the other side, smashing everything up. I mean, the other thing is, this is the thing. I know it's supposed to be ridiculous, but Why does no one ever think to call the police or something? If people are going around smashing up vehicles with iron bars and baseball bats, I don't know. No one seems to, Oh yes, let's get the local radio DJ to sort it out. I don't know. It's weird. It's all very. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and perhaps it's not meant to. Perhaps I'm trying. I'm asking too much. Perhaps.
Well, I don't know. I think if you know his other films, they do. I mean, his other films are quite peculiar as well. I mean, I haven't seen Gregory's Girls for many years. Local Hero, I saw for the first time not long ago, actually, about a year ago. And that one, they're quite slow paced. I mean, I suppose they're quite contemplating life type films. I think it's that kind of just wandering through life and seeing things in interesting ways. I mean, there's some moments in here that there's a funny moment when they meet in a cafe. And there's like this scene where they're kind of all passing tea around and handing it out, where they're supposed to be having this quite serious conversation, and all the sons of one of the fathers, one of the ice cream owners, they're a bit odd. I mean, he's Italian, and they're obviously have grown up in Scotland, so they've all got Scottish accents, and they're like handing out round cups of tea to each other, which again feels kind of maybe a nod back to the kind of the slapstick comedies of the 40s and 50s. It's got that kind of timing to it, it's got that kind of feeling to it, but it doesn't ever happen again. And it's like different things happen throughout the movie. Yeah. Some things are quite silly humour. There's kind of silly, surreal humour, and then there's kind of melancholic type humour as well. There's lots of different things trying to go on in there, and I don't think it quite holds together as it should. I mean, the whole idea of ice cream vans at Christmas in Scotland is absurd, but then around the time the film came out, that was actually happening. There was a spate of crimes involving ice cream vans and gangs dealing drugs out of ice cream vans. And that was literally happened, I think, like weeks after this film was released in 1984 in Scotland. In Glasgow, that thing was actually happening as well, which didn't give them a lot of good press, I think, around the time of the film being released. I mean, obviously they were actual gangs and they were dealing actual drugs than just fighting over ice cream flavours. And maybe that's why this one doesn't, because they're supposed to be like, Italian type mafia people, but they're literally just fighting over the type of ice cream that they're selling.
This thing is quite a sort of, it's unoffensive, gentle, sort of comforting film, perhaps.
Yeah.
Be described as. There's nothing really risque or rude or anything like. I mean, obviously there's a bit of violence with people bashing up vehicles with bats. But apart from that, it's just a nice film. It's just a shame that it didn't really sort of click with me.
Its title comes from the Christmas carol, God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. I mean, it's glad tidings of comfort and joy. So, I mean, yes, it is. It's quite an innocent film. It's very gentle. It's very, like you say, comfortable. I have to say, I didn't realise, I was looking at Claire Grogan. I was like, how do I know her? And of course, she's Kachansky from Red Dwarf, isn't she?
Yeah, and she's in Gregory's Girls as well.
Lots of these people in the film, I think, have turned up in TV in this country. Specifically Bill Patterson, although he did do some other films as well. He was in The Killing Fields and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the Terry Gilliam film as well. But mostly, if you're British, you'll know him from television. He's done lots on television.
I mean, recently he's been Fleabag's dad, if you've watched Fleabag.
Of course he was, yeah. It's quite a peculiar one. So like I said, we watched this on Amazon Prime. That's available. If you have Amazon Prime in the UK, you can watch it for free. Are there releases of it?
There was a Blu-ray release. I think for a long time it was quite hard to get hold of, in any sort of format. But yeah, there was a Blu-ray back in 2016, I think, by Studio Canal on their Vintage Classics range. So, I think they've restored it and it's got some interviews and stuff on it. So, yeah, if you are a fan of the film, then that's probably worth picking up. If you haven't seen it, then maybe give it a go on Prime first, see if it's your cup of tea. As we said, I was expecting to like it. I watched the trailer, thought that looks quite interesting. There seems to be a lot of people that do really like it. There's lots of favourable reviews around for it. So I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't really click with it. But give it a go and let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, I read an article with a writer who had seen it when it came out, didn't like it. Kind of, I got the sense that he felt the same as we did about watching it. But then he came back to it later, like 20 years later, and he enjoyed it more. Maybe when he got to the age of the person in question. I mean, we are kind of closer to the to the age of the person in question. I mean, it's a guy kind of having a midlife crisis, and maybe I can relate to that, a point. I mean, I would definitely say, if you're interested in well, if you know any of the people in it, or you want to watch something different and you want to watch something maybe a little bit Christmas related, then, please do go and check it out and maybe let us know what you think about it. If you know it, let us know what maybe we're missing. I didn't hate it, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It's just a bit slow moving, and maybe could have gone to places or different places. But it's very 80s as well. And a lot of, and especially in his radio, in the office for his radio. There's loads of like 80s posters on the wall. And of course the soundtrack is by Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, who worked with Bill Forsyth before in the past, and he did Local Hero. And the soundtrack's quite nice. There's some quite nice moments in there. Yeah, if you know it, let us know what you think of it, and if not, then, go and check it out. And that was Comfort and Joy, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button there, and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's other videos to check out over here. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and join us next week for another video.